For now, though, let's get you across today's latest market news. Here's Dumisang Grove.
Thanks, Timbigili. At this hour, we turn our focus to the Competition Commission's move seeking more small businesses on banks and insurers supplier panels. The Competition Commission's Khanyisa Qobo speaks to us about this. Thank you so much for your time, Khanyisa. Let's talk to us about the issue around why this matter is coming up at this particular time, because we do know that there are historical barriers in this sector.
Good evening to you and your listeners and viewers. The Commission has published this practice note to provide guidance on competition principles that banks and insurers can consider when establishing their supplier panels or administering their supplier panels. This is a work that is building on our previous advocacy with banks in 2020, where there were competition issues that we engaged them on relating to supplier panels for conveyancing law firms. And in that advocacy, there were some reforms that were made in terms of the rules and contracting rules for conveyancing law firms that are on banking panels. We've done similar work in automotive sector, where we published a guideline in 2021, and one of the chapters in the guideline is on supplier panels. And so this practice note is really just a cumulative efforts in consolidating the issues that we've been observing in the sector in relation to supplier panels.
What response has the Competition Commission received so far?
We have consulted with the industry in developing this work, and as I said, there is some history as well in coming to this point. We are really in advocacy mode and promoting compliance here, being cognizant that there are different business models that banks and insurers have. And so we expect that there would be adherence at least to the principles, which are not so much a prescription, but the principles of competition to ensure that small businesses, SMEs, and historic, HDIs are able to onboard into these panels. And when they are on those panels, that work is allocated to them, and that there are not long-term exclusive agreements that prevent the entry of new players onto these supplier panels.
Let's also talk through the process then that this proposal is likely to undergo and the amount of time that it will take.
So, as I indicated, we are in a mode where we are promoting compliance and very much rely on the industry to drive the necessary reforms here. We have worked quite closely and consulted with the South African Insurance Association, Banking Association, and even more recently with APSIB. Because we do believe that an industry-led approach may achieve more gains than piecemeal engagements with banks and insurers. And so we do intend to continue engaging them for self-review and continued monitoring that these reforms take place where necessary. Of course, enforcement action always remains on the table, and we do respond to complaints that are lodged in the normal course and within the powers of the Competition Act.
Does this also then stem from a complaint that was made or an issue that was flagged by the small and medium enterprises?
Yes, we do receive complaints, on this quite regularly. Where various service providers may allege that the rules or the criteria for joining a particular panel are opaque, and that they've been attempting. One example is an automotive repair a repair workshop owned by a black female, which is something quite uncommon, but banking to be onboarded into several insurance companies yet is unclear about which aspect of the criteria they are not able to meet. In other instances, we get complaints that SMEs or businesses are on these panels for years, but work does not get allocated to them. But you find that there may be one or two players where consumers, particularly in insurance-related supplier panels, are channeled towards one or two particular service providers. And so, it is these kinds of complaints we've been getting in the area of conveyancing that I referred to. The common complaint there is on the investment criteria that banks may require for a law firm to be part of their panel. As we know, as consumers, if you're purchasing a house using banking finance, you would be required to use the services of a conveyor that's pre-approved by the bank in many instances. And there is often a little consumer choice and opaqueness as to how one gets to be allocated a particular conveyancing firm. And there are many of these firms who are looking for these opportunities, and so these translate into complaints on our desk.
Khanyisa, we are talking about leveling the playing field here, but you touched on criteria. I'm interested in finding out then what type of small businesses are likely to benefit from this.
Anyone who is in providing goods or services that are required by banks or insurers, or where banks and insurers would require those services for their own customers, would of course benefit here. So in the short-term insurance space, of course, it could be anything that's related to any business that is related to the business of short-term insurers, whether it's automotive or household. And in the context of banks, it's a range of services there that often banks would use for themselves, but also for their consumers. The example of conveyancing law firms being one of those. So we in this work, it is about promoting entry, inclusion, but ultimately it is to offer an opportunity for SMEs to be able to meaningfully participate, in this sector.
Thank you so much for your time. Khanyisa Qobo from the Competition Commission talking to us about this proposal of involving the SME sector in key industries where there is historic barrier to entry.